Oh my. Hmm. Okay. Okay, I am live here. Ah. Hi, Tara. How are you? Hello, lovely one. I don't know how to pronounce Brussels. Hello, Anita, our moderator. Glad you're here. How are you doing? I'm good. I'm very good. Let's see. I don't don't want to have a midriff here by slouching. I like pencils. You know, I go to Sally's and I get their pencils, and then I use chapstick because I use a lot of chapstick. So that's how I do my lips, and I like it. So, ah, so we're going to talk about jealousy. Hi. So, how many of you have ever found yourself being in a situation where you were jealous? Anybody? And I kind of thought, this is what I thought. I thought that basically I was not a jealous person. I've never been jealous. And something happened. I don't know how it ended up, how I ended up. I'm trying to plug in my light here. I don't know how it ended up that I ended up being jealous. You've never been jealous, Anita? Anybody else? Never been jealous? How many of you have never been jealous? I mean, I've heard some people be like crazy jealous. Never, Anita. So, you know, Tara, you've never been jealous either? Well, don't, let's have to share about my journey, okay? So, you have your ex made you insecure, Tara, okay? If you were given a cause, you'd be jealous. Hi, Marie, how are you? Someone from Facebook showed up. You have your ex made you insecure, given a cause. Hi, Rose, how are you today? Welcome. Yeah, I mean, I've like never been jealous ever. And I waited until I was older. And, you know, I think let's just start with it. Yeah, I am good. I'm good. I have to tell you something. I've been sharing my app with you, The Invisible Rule. And I'm telling you a little bit about it before I talk about the jealousy. So, I believe that before the age of 7, we get our marching papers. Before the age of 7, we kind of, our personalities are already formed. And whatever happens between 0 and 7, and sometimes before, is like programmed in your head, and you don't even know it's there. So therefore, you have, oh, thank you, Anita. So you have things that make you do a certain job or certain way you work or relationships or how much you eat. All of that is almost like you're pre-programmed. It's like you get up and you do what you do and you don't know why you're doing it. Well, I believe that we were programmed before the age of 7. And if we don't find out what that is, it keeps running us and we keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. So that's where I came up with the invisible rule, which was I found out that if people found out what their invisible rule or what they decided when they were very young, then they can change their life. Because as long as you don't know it, because it's there telling you and our thoughts what to do, but hi, Trey Benet, but you don't change it. So anyway, that's why I did that. Why I didn't. Well, let me just tell you. Since 1987, I have worked with professionals, primarily lawyers, and as a coach, and help them to find out what their invisible rule is. And I call it their basic operating, like our basic operating principles. We're like little wind-up toys, robots doing what our thoughts tell us to do, believing what our thoughts tell us to do without questioning. And this gets behind the thoughts and tells you what you're thinking so that you can change your thoughts. Because if you don't know you're having the thoughts, then you keep doing the same thing over and over again. So that's why I developed that. And that kind of helps me talk about jealousy here, because hi Lisa. So I grew up in a family, you've heard me say it over and over again, that was kind of crazy. Now, my mother, let's see, she was 17 when I was born. She was a year ahead in high school. How are you doing, Lisa? Good to see you. So she was considered at that time to be very, very pretty. And for most of her life, she was like very, very pretty. And everybody like looked at her and said, "Oh, she's pretty." And so she was the prettiest girl in town. And my dad, like the narcissist that he was, like, "Oh, I want to get the prettiest girl in town." And of course, because he's a narcissist, he found the prettiest girl in town and he dogged her. And hi, Sheila, how are you? So he kind of dogged her. So she wasn't so pretty as she got older, to be honest. And she actually died at 41. I think it was 41, drank herself to death. And, and always, 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 always loved my father. She loved my father. My grandmother would talk to my mother and she'd say, "You're not the only person that's loved someone. All of us have lost a love." But she just like, "I can't live without him." And she didn't. She drank herself. I mean, she really, really, really loved him. And so I grew up in a family where she just was with him for 18 years and he was unfaithful for 18 years. And she knew he was unfaithful. And, then she went and had start cheating. And, it was a crazy thing. So that's what I grew up in. And I vowed that I wouldn't live in a situation like that. So anyway, my husband was very faithful until, we married young, and he was faithful until he wasn't. And so that was something, and then I was done. So I have been really, really hard. I think you know what you call an Amazon woman? Who knows what an Amazon woman is and who is an Amazon woman? Because I've always been an Amazon woman. You've been jealous, Marie? Okay. So we are talking about, some of us have gotten jealous, although I never was before. So you know what an Amazon woman is? Tell me if you know what an Amazon woman, if you've been an Amazon woman. What do you think an Amazon woman is, and have you been an Amazon woman? Anybody think about what an Amazon woman is? What is it? An Amazon woman? Hi, Boo. Anybody think about what an Amazon woman? Hey, like the live so people will come. A strong, independent woman. Yes. Tough. We're tough. Someone who's tough and takes care of everything. Yep. We're like, from the Amazon. We're like, we don't need anybody. We're tough and we don't let anybody get too close. We have a protective shield around us. It's almost like we're having a shield around us. We went to go see this weekend. We went to go see Odyssey. Did anybody, Boo, you an Amazon woman? Did anybody go see Odyssey this weekend? It was the first weekend out. Who went to go see Odyssey? Wonder Woman, Queen of the Amazon, Lisa Lachey. Not yet. Well, I'll tell you, we went to go see it. It was 3 hours. And you know what? I'm always complaining to Greg when we watch like movies at his house or even at my house. He likes shoot 'em, like we call them shoot 'em ups. And he loves to watch shoot 'em ups. So I'm like, oh my God, so we're together. And I'm like, oh, you just like so many violent movies. I don't understand if a whole bunch of people aren't killed, then you don't want to be in the movie. You don't want to watch it. So he's always talking. So then he'll like look at girl flicks and put a girl flick on for me, even though he's like bored out of his head because he knows that I hate all the violence. So we go see Odyssey, and there was more killing in Odyssey than any of the 100 movies he's watched with me. Oh, you did what I did, Boo. I did that. I moved to California. I moved from California. I said, I don't want, kiss my grits. There's a kiss my grits. I don't need you. I don't need my family. I don't need anybody. It's me and my kids against the world, and we're going to make it. And I will pull myself up by my straps. I'll do whatever it takes. I work day jobs. I work part-time jobs at night. I worked on the weekend. I had 2 kids. And hi, Miss Joyce. I don't need anybody. I don't need anybody. I need no one. And that's still true, by the way. I don't need anybody. Your family thought you were crazy? Trey Benet. Oh, there's a whole bunch of us like that. Oh my God, that's great. My family, this was I moved to California in 1983, and it was like a recession. Happy Monday to you, Miss Joyce. And it was a recession, and they were like, you can't go out to California and take your kids out there. You don't have any family out there. You can't do this. You're not going to make it. And then I wouldn't listen. So then they put my grandmother, and my grandmother was like very, very religious, sanctified. She got on there, they said, you're the person that has to talk to Pamela because she's like going to go to California. And there was nothing they could see. You want to move there next year to California? Single and independent is peace. Yep. So anyway, it's a whole different thing. So I just said, I am an Amazon woman, and, every now and then I would go on a date, right? So for example, I met this guy. We're supposed to go on a date. I met all these guys online. And so he was like, oh, he's looking for a wife or whatever he's looking for. And then, like I was going to lunch, I was doing things with my friends. And he was like, what am I supposed to do while you go to lunch? And I was like, what? I mean, you're like lonely because I'm going to lunch? And then he was history. He was history. Then I met another guy. He was a Marine. And I used to always meet these guys. They were like professor types. I don't know why they would be attracted to me. But anyway, so I met this guy, and he was a professor, a marine biologist. And he had gotten divorced. This is in Florida. And his name was Henry. I think it was Henry. But I didn't like Henry. I don't want to be with somebody named Henry. So I said, look, I'm not calling you Henry because I don't like that name, but I liked his last name. So I said, I'll call you your last name. So your last name to me is it was Patrick. You're trying to get tickets for next week to see Odyssey? Yeah, it was sold out. We were probably the oldest people in there seeing the movie. But it was so much killing, because it was the Greek mythology. And so Greg, he loved it. He said, oh, you don't like killing, huh? You picked the movie. You picked a movie where there were more people killed in that movie than any of the movies, all of the movies combined that I went to see. He said, so don't ever complain about my killing, my violence. Yeah, men like to conquer. Some men, like Amazon women, but I was really tough. So anyway, so with Patrick, I changed his name, and then we went to some parties. I lived in, kind of an affluent community, and we went to some parties, and he wore some ratty sweater, and I was embarrassed to be with him. So I said, you've got to get some clothes. So he went to the store and he got what he called Pammy clothes. These are clothes I'll wear for you. He said, I give a rat's ass what I look like or wear. He's like a scientist. And, but anyway, so we went to the store and got him some clothes that he could wear when we went out. So we did all that. And I never let him kiss me. I don't think I ever kissed him. I mean, we dated for months. And I was like, I don't know, you got to prove yourself. So all those kind of guys, what can't be done? What are you saying, Boo? What can't be done? So all of the time, it's been sold out in New York City. Wow. Odyssey is sold out in New York City. When I got tickets, there were only 2 seats left. I mean, the whole theater was filled. Anyway, so I'm tough B, tough B, no, nobody's getting to me. You know what I mean? Yeah, they can't conquer the Amazon woman. No. And so women would be these women that would be talking about being in, going out, and they would say they went out with these guys and they went to bed with them. And I'm like, no wonder the guys don't like you, because, you put out too soon, or you put out. I wasn't putting out at all. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen. So, there I am going along being an Amazon woman, and I remember one time I dated a guy after I got divorced. He says, what are you trying to do? Prove that you don't need a man? Yes, exactly. That's what I'm doing. I'm living my life and I don't need a man. And, and especially, the way I grew up and I saw my father and all the stuff. So, I'm really tough, and I'm not going to let anybody get next to me. So meanwhile, you all heard the story. I go to this coach about my business because, I've got to work. I'm in business. I have a business. I've got 7 employees. I do videos. I do social media. I coach lawyers primarily. I got the app. I'm going to put it out there. You have to try my app. I mean, I'm very proud. I'm 77 and I created an app. You got to try it. And I think Tara has tried it. And I wrote this book, The Invisible Rule. This book, this is my 4th book I've written. But this is my book. This is my book that I wrote. I'm not really pleased with the print and everything. But anyway, this is my book that I wrote, The Invisible Rule. It's on Amazon. So I said, I love my work. I love my work. You know what I mean? I love it. I'm very respected for what I do. I mean, I have had financial challenges as any business owner has. If anybody has not had financial challenges being in business, tell me how you did it, because most any business, big business, our government has financial challenges. So yeah, yeah, it's my voice, it's me, and it's amazing. And I'm so proud of it. I mean, my teacher who's a computer teacher, he this is what he said. I took his class, and and I'm like an old person in his class. All these people are, and they're young, and he kind of told me what to do. Da, 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 da. And I was at Greg's house, and I was working on it, and I kept working on it, and I kept working on it, and I kept working on it, and I fixed it. And my teacher was surprised. He said he was driving down the street, and he saw what I did. He said he had to pull over on the side of the road, like, Pamela did this? He was so shocked that I did it. I'm shocked that I did it. Like, I didn't even know anything about AI or anything like that. But when I met him, my teacher, his name is Lanny. When I met him, I told him, in 1987, I developed a way to help people change their lives like that. In 6 months, their lives have completely changed. And like when I do it for lawyers, it's at least $25,000 for 6 months or $5,000 for 1 month. So I'm very expensive, right? So I wanted to make it available for everybody. I wanted to be available for anyone. And so I told him, I said, in 1987, I did this, I created this way, this method, and I wanted to be able to be available for many people, and maybe AI can help me do that. And he said, yes, it can. And I was like, I lived long enough. That technology caught up with me, and I can help so many people. I mean, I haven't, like somebody did it, tested it, said, you should charge a lot more money. No, I'm just charging this because I want it to be available. More than anything, I want it to be available. And tomorrow, I want you all to say prayers for me tomorrow, because I hope he's doing it tomorrow. Cross my fingers. Is that my teacher is going to put it to his mailing list, which has, thousands and thousands and thousands of names of people who know, and they know me. So maybe that'll be my beginning. And if that's successful, then he'll introduce me to other millionaires that will help me. So please say prayers. So, I got all that going on in my life. So anyway, this coach, but at that time, I didn't have that going on. So anyway, I went to this coach. My business is sucking, and I'm not, I'll tell you, at that time, I really was just waiting to die. I'm being honest. I was waiting to die because first, my brother died. He's 10 months younger than me. He died 15 years ago. Then my brother, who's 3 years younger than me, he died, right? Then my best friend, who was like my sister, she got cancer. She never had children, never married. And I went out there she was in California. We all were in California. And she died of cancer. It was really hard. I was there. I broke out in shingles. I was there to try to help her. I broke out in shingles. It was so upsetting to be with someone and just walk them through. It was horrible. And then my other friend, my best friend in London, was like a mentor, a mother, a friend. She died. So then I got really like morbid. And I was going on the internet to see who died, like old boyfriends, all these people that are my age had died. And my kids finally said, "Mom, stop looking at the obituaries." Obituaries. So you got to get the frame of mind that I was in at that time. I'm like 70, in my 70s, right? But maybe I'm 73 at that point. And I was just like, I guess I'm next, you know. So anyway, I go to this coach and I just said, my business isn't working, and I really need help. I really need help. And so she coached me. And then she asked me, just in passing, and what's going on in your social life? And I was like, well, I don't have a social life because I'm old. I'm 75. I was 70, maybe I was 73 at that time. I'm 70 something, 73, 74. And I'm so old, and I haven't dated in 20 years. I just, like, that whole part of my life, I just shut the door to that. And she was like, well, you're not too old and you need to get out there and find somebody, just like, and I'm like, I'm not too old. You think I'm not too old? I'm not, I'm not too, I think I'm too old. She said, no, you're not too old. Get out there. So anyway, I was like, okay, because if I pay for a coach, I'm going to do what the coach says. That's when people pay me to be their coach, they do what I tell them to do because they pay me a lot of money to help them. So you take like lawyers, they pay $25,000. I tell them to do something, they do it. So, and I'm a coach. So I'm a coach and I know how that is. If a coach tells you what to do, you do it, because obviously what you've been doing hasn't worked. So why are you at the coach? Because you want something different. So you do what they suggest. So anyway, yeah, never too old. Well, I found out. So anyway, I got online. I think I told you. And it was not easy. When you go online to go to date, it is not easy. If anybody tells you it's easy, then they're lying, because it's not easy. Because you have to, it's like you're sifting through the chaff. Like one time I went out with this guy and he couldn't speak English, but I thought, I want to live in Spain anyway. So he spoke Spanish. So we went on a date and he couldn't speak English and I couldn't speak Spanish that well. So we used our Google Translate on the date. So he would say something and he would write it in Google and I would read it. And then he was kind of cute, and he said his wife had died. I think he said his wife had died. Who knows? These guys lie. But anyway, at the end of the date, he thought, well, I guess he thought he was going to my house. I don't know what it was. And so he called me on, the phone, the WhatsApp, and he didn't have a shirt on. And he was talking, and he's talking in Spanish. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I'm like, we just met, and it's like, I love you. I love you. I love you. So I like, okay. And then that didn't work out. And then I had another guy, we were supposed to meet for coffee. And he said, tea. I don't drink coffee. So drink for tea. And he says, oh, well, we'll meet at Panera. I said, fine, we'll meet for Panera. And so that evening, he said, come to meet me at this address. I'm thinking it's Panera, but I look it up on Google and it's his house. I said, I'm not coming to your house. So, it's a numbers game. You go out and you have the numbers. It is so funny. I have to tell you this. It's so funny. So I was on Match when Greg and I broke up, and I'll tell you about us breaking up. But I was on Match when we broke up. I went back on Match, and I guess Greg saw it, and he was like, we're broken up now. He's like, oh, you looking for another sucker? He was so mad. We were so mean to each other during that time. We normally were never mean to each other, but we were mean to each other. And he said, oh, you're looking for another sucker. And so anyway, I was on Match, but I paid for, like 6 months or I don't know, however long. And I said, when Greg and I got back together, which was basically, I got back together in March, I said, I'm going to hide my profile, but I'm not getting off of. I paid for it in case, just in case. I thought it. So this week, Greg says, I got an email today with women on Match, and you were there you were on the thing. And I'm like, no, I couldn't be, because I hid my profile. He said, no, you didn't hide your profile. It was there. And so we're going on and on. I'm saying, well, how did you see it? Were you on Match? And he was like, no, when you're not on there, they try to entice you to join again, so they send you pictures. Well, what happened? He saw me, and then I had all these men all of a sudden trying to get in touch with me, a Match. And I was like, well, what happened? I was hidden. I said, they must have unhid my profile, because, Greg saw me, and then these other two men kind of start liking me or wanted to meet me. But basically, I forgot to hide my profile, or I didn't do it right, or maybe they unhid my profile. But all of a sudden, my fiance sees me on Match, and he's thinking she's still on Match. And anyway, so, and then I get two emails from two men who said they liked me. So anyway, it's not easy dating, right? And then those of you who've known that I did meet a guy, because one of the things, I wanted to live in Portugal. And by the way, Greg and I are making plans to go to Portugal in September. I'm so excited. It's been a wild ride, right? So we're going to go to Portugal, and I've met some other people that are in Germany, and they invited us to come there. So maybe we'll go to Portugal, and then we'll swing by Germany on our first international trip. This is our second, because actually he took me to Turks and Caicos when we first got married. I mean, we first met, not got married. So anyway, many of you know how we got together. So anyway, I meet Greg, and he's to me, I talk to him now. He seemed like kind of nerdy kind of guy, and kind of conservative. He was not a big dresser. He didn't have a fancy car. He didn't have all the things of a guy that I probably would normally be interested in. So I was like, okay, maybe I should do something different. And, this guy is kind of nerdy, and I'm thinking I'm in charge. He's like, we talk now, because sneaky. Yeah. So I'm thinking that he's kind of, whatever, but he's like, do you know the game? Did you all ever play like red light when you were kids? You said 1, 2, 3, red light, and you turn around and you try to get closer, and who gets to the person first, they tag them, and then they're it. Whoever played red light? Yeah. Greg is like red light. He was like red light. So I told him, you were like red light. You knew exactly what you wanted, and he just played the game. Yeah, red light, green light. Yep, that was it. He played the game. He just he acted like when you meet a guy and he comes on to you, you know what I mean? He comes on to you and he's like, hey, you know what I mean? He's throwing around his charisma and his whatever, testosterone. You know what I mean? How many of you been around guys and they're on the make because how they act and how they carry themselves and how they dress? How many of you met guys and that they're on the make? The type. Has anyone? Say me if you have. Yeah. Yeah, they're on the make. You know what they're up to. Yeah. 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 But he wasn't like that. Greg wasn't like that. He was not, you know, he looked like he didn't even know how to spell sex. Now, yeah, yeah, yeah. But he was like, I was used to these professor types. Yeah, he did trick me. I was used to these professor types like Patrick and these other guys. I could just say, well, you do this and you do that, and I'm in charge, and like that. But with Greg, the coaches said, find somebody and then go all in. This is what you said, go all in. And I'm like, go all in? What? Go all in? Like meet somebody and go all in. How do you go all in? I'd had never been go all in. I'm like pushing you away, I know what you're up to, like all that. So she's saying, let all that go and just go all in. And like, oh my God. So when I meet Greg, I'm saying, well, he's harmless, is what I thought. He's harmless. And if I'm going to go all in, he seems safe to go all in with, right? So, I plan, for us to go, I had a business trip and I thought, well, I was trying to debate, like this is what I was thinking, like he lives 3 hours away from me and I live 3 hours from him and we both work. How's this going to work? How are we going to, it's going to take forever to go all in with this guy. So that's when I just said, well, after this business trip, it's like I have to be away for 5 days. I'll invite him to go and he could watch my dog Sammy for me and I'll go all in with him too. I'll reward him by going all in. But it was going to be on my terms. On my terms, I was going to go all in. So when we get to the hotel, we have 2 queen beds and me and my dog on one bed and him on the other bed. And he's like reading a book. He's being very studious. Again, it looked like he didn't even know how to spell sex. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to eventually, I said, we're going to, in the car, I said, okay, we're going to go slow. He said he never heard slow. I said, we're going to go slow. And, we're going to go slow and, we're going to be here a few days. We're going to be there like 4 days in the hotel and, we'll, go slow. So, the first night, I said, I thought, well, it's been a long day. We drove all the way down here. I'll put on my flannel pajamas. And by the way, I brought 2 pair of flannel pajamas. And I did bring a nightie. So I had 2 pair of pajamas and a nightie. And, the first night we'll cuddle. I'll give him a little cuddle. Well, he, like you said, he tricked me, Tara, because he was smooth. He knew exactly the cuddle turned into everything. And the cuddle was like, whoa, like my pajamas flew. And he's like very, very, he's still the very best lover I've ever had. He is the best lover. And I'm like thinking it was going to be mediocre at best. So, he like knocked my socks off. And I've never, Fuchsia, 75, I've never, ever, ever, ever lost control. Never. And I like had a thought about women, like, well, I don't know why women lose control, or I don't know how women get pregnant when they don't want to get pregnant. Like all of that, I thought, and I had to eat crow because it's the first time ever in my life. And I remember as it was happening, I was like, oh, I'm out of control. That's what I thought. Like, oh my God, I'm like, he's in control. I'm not in control. Yeah, that had never, ever, 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 ever happened to me. And um, and he's still in bed. He's in control. He is a very, very assertive, and I mean, his only agenda is to please you. And so yeah, you've never been controlled, but you're ready. I'm telling you, still to this day. I mean, we've been together 2.5 years, and this we laugh at. We like, wow, we're together. When we're together, I'm home this week. He's home this week. Whew. When we're together, it's normal for us to make love in the morning and at night. Isn't that crazy? Look at how old we are. Look at how old we are, and we're like can't keep our hands off each other. Isn't that crazy? Well, anyway, now I'm not in control. I am not in control, and I am looking at him. He's this guy. He's been around, and then the other thing is that I asked him to tell me about all these women he'd had over the years. So he's been single for 20 years. So he told me about this one, and he should have married this one, and he told me about that one. And, so he's telling me about these women, and I'm like, oh, that's how you are. Oh, that, and the question you asked, and how did that end? Why did that end? What happened that's end? Yeah. How did that end? What did that end? So I'm thinking this guy is like my father. That's what I thought. He is like my father. I'm like fallen out of control, in love with a man that's like my father. I'm like, oh my God. So then I started, and then he had like, he's a financial advisor for widows. He is a financial advisor. You know who most of his clients are? Widows. And when we first started dating, he'd be here and they'd be calling him and they'd be like, should I buy? He handles their money. Should I buy a furnace, or should I buy this, or should I buy a car? And he's like stopping and telling them what they should do. Like he's like their surrogate husband. And then there was his ex-wife. His ex-wife, when he had surgery, he gave me her number to call her. Call her and tell her, that my knee surgeries went fine, whatever. So I called the ex-wife, with everybody else. I called his son, I called his assistant, and I called, the ex-wife, and she says, oh, I follow you on TikTok or wherever she follows me. And I'm like, oh, she says, yeah, da, 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 da. It's like, okay. So then she starts telling him, you shouldn't be on the social media. She says, I know he doesn't like, I know you don't like it. So she's telling him whatever she's telling him. So I'm like looking, and he's got all these females in his life. And then there's a neighbor down the street. The first time I go to his house, I'm like, pull up in the driveway. We dated for 6 months. And for 6 months, every weekend he was here. Every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, he was here. You're laughing, Tara. Anita. He's here every weekend. Then all of a sudden, there's one weekend and he's not going to be here. And I'm like, what are you doing that you're not going to be here this weekend? And he's like, well, I've got to cut some bushes or whatever he said. And I went berserk. And I went on a date publicly. I've gone on 2 dates since we've been together with other guys, because I was just like, I can't be this vulnerable. I don't want to be this vulnerable. Do you know what it feels like when you're vulnerable? You're in a relationship and you're vulnerable. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we had to, she's in her 60s. She's in her 60s or something. And, but, but look, a year later, I found out she was an old girlfriend. He didn't even tell me. I said, well, eventually I said, how did you meet this woman down the street? Oh, we met on Match, but now she's a client. It didn't work out. So I was like, whew. I was like, oh my God, what did I get into here? I had no idea who this man was. So anyway, he was having some knee surgery, right? And I was at his house, and he doesn't drink. I don't drink. But I look in his refrigerator, he has 2 bottles of wine in his refrigerator. And I'm like, why do you have wine in your refrigerator? So I decided I can't do this. I cannot do this. So he's supposed to have his surgery. And he's coming to my doctor. We had all these appointments and all this thing. He had already had one knee done. So he has a second knee supposed to be done. And he's going to be here for a couple of days and blah, 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 blah. But I break up with him. I said, I'm sorry. I know you're having your knee surgery, but I can't do this. It's over. And then I just said, and I thought about it. I said, well, your surgery is on Monday. This was on Saturday. I'll let you do the surgery. Go ahead. I don't have to cancel your surgery, but it's over. So he comes here. And if you want to know what Attila, who knows what Attila the Hun is? Anybody know who Attila the Hun is? You're probably too young. Anybody know? Anybody know who Attila the Hun is? Trey Benet, what is Attila the Hun? Yeah. You know who Attila the Hun is? What is Attila the Hun? The warrior. Yeah. Killer, warrior. Well, that's who he was with. So he was here when we were in front of the doctor, because it was my doctor. Yeah. We were like, ah, la, 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 la. But when we were not in front of anybody, I was Attila the Hun. I was Attila the Hun, and rude and mean, and wouldn't speak to him. And so he's like, what? He's like, you're just being so rude. Why are you being so mean? And I'm like, I wasn't speak to him at all. So I treated him so badly, and I had left my car at his house. So then, he has a bad knee, but he's driving home because he wants to get out of my house, because I'm like being cruel to him. And he gets home, and my only thing was, let me get this man home, and I am going to get in my car, and I will never see this man again. So needless to say, that didn't work out, but we did break up. And I just said, I'm not doing this. And okay, so let me tell you about my part. Oh, I got 10 minutes. So here's my part. My part was, I kept making him my father. And I had this whole thing in my brain that he was doing. I tortured myself because I made him my father. And anything he said, no matter what he said, I put a spin on it in my brain that he was like my father, that he was lying. Everything he said, I didn't believe anything he said. I made up everything. I had this whole thing going in my head. And it was terrible. It was terrible because, yeah, we're engaged now. It was terrible. It was terrible because I was torturing myself. So here's the deal. You want to know how I got over it? So anyway, I did go on a date. We said we were going to make up on March 6th. And I decided to go on a date and let him know I wanted to. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to the Villages," which is where we went for the 4th of July. And he says, "Who are you going with?" And I'm like hemming and hawing. I'm not going to really tell him I'm going on a date. But anyway, long story short, I went on a date. I met a guy and I went on a date. And you know, I went on the date with this guy. I said, okay, he was very tall and he liked to travel internationally. So I thought, who knows whatever. So anyway, I went and I met with the guy. And it was a long drive. I stayed in this guest room and he wanted more, but I wasn't interested in that. And I was at the guy's house texting Greg while I'm in the guest room. And we decided, yeah, but I didn't do anything with him. I just so I was in the guest room. So what I decided to do, because I knew I was torturing Greg, but what I decided to do was while I was there, I texted Greg. I said, I'm not in the bed with this guy. I'm at his house. I'm here, but I'm not going to bed with him. And so we kind of texted. I'm sure the guy would be furious if he knew that I was in the other guest room, because he wanted me to be in his room, but I wasn't going to be in his room. So long story short, um, I made a choice. And my choice was, there's many fish in the sea. I am very desirable, and there are many fish in the sea. Yeah. Well, the thing that Greg showed me, because I did a lot of crazy stuff. You all saw me do a lot of crazy stuff. Is that somehow or another he still loved me. He still loved me. I mean, I know he loves me. I mean, he's who he is, but he loves me. And yeah, and then I went on the date with Rusty and did it on social media. So we're both fallible people. But what I decided is that my brain doesn't believe anything he says. My brain puts a spin on anything he does or says. It does. It still to this day does that. But I know that. Do you know how you have a thought in your head? It's just like the invisible rule, like the video, the app I have. My head is programmed from my father and my brothers that love equals somebody hurting you. How many of you have that? That if you love somebody, they will hurt you? How many of you have that? You think if you really, really fall in love, you're going to be hurt. I mean, I have it. I have it. I can't help it. I have that in my head. He does everything he can, like he does everything he can to make me happy. He does. He's here, like we're doing my yard this weekend. Go to Odyssey. We went out, he takes me away for the weekend. He's going to Portugal. He does all those things to make me happy, and I'm still not believing him. And I don't know if I ever will, because that's in my brain here. But the thing is that I know it's my brain. I know it's my brain. It's not real. Yeah. So I had to decide, was I going to, here's my choices. Either I wasn't going to be with him, and then I would do it with someone else because it's my brain. Either I was not going to be with him. I was going to do like I did for the 20 years. I'm not going to be with anybody. I'm going to close my heart, put iron on it, put a lock on it, and not let anybody in. Or I could be with someone who makes me happy and know that my brain does what it does. And he was like crazy. He was like afraid of me because is she going to go crazy again? He was like literally terrified that I was going to go and I've been stable for a while, and I had to get help. I had to get help because my brain, yeah, he does. Like my brain does what it does. Yeah, because I kept pushing him away. That's what he said. You keep pushing me away. And he would not be doing anything, like he's like, Pamela, I think this is what I believe. This is what I believe. And I could be wrong. I believe that I accused him so much that he eventually went out and probably went out with somebody because it's like, well, she says I'm going out with somebody anyway. So I pushed him out there because I just could, and he was like, where is this coming from? So, I had to take, it's almost like it's a lion in my head and I have to tame it. Like I can't let it run me because it will, like I'll always be talking about what are you doing or who are you doing? So like for me, like we started living together, and for me to decide to be home this week is me choosing me instead of, let me make sure I'm with him, and like I want to make sure I'm there, and I know, what I mean? Like I want to make sure nobody else is there, or who, what is he doing? You know what I mean? But I have work to do. I have a dentist appointment this week. I had a doctor's appointment. I had things to do. Plus, I love my house. I do love my house too. I mean, I love, being with Greg, and we are doing this and we're trying to get used to, but we both have lived by ourselves a long time. And so we could either live by ourselves, you know what I mean? But we're making this commitment that we're, the next step. And, and I am working to get my, my finances together, and then I'll be okay that we get married, because we plan to get married. We have a date in mind. We haven't tell you all yet, but I have things that I want to do before that happens. So what I want to tell you is you all have, I'm bearing my soul with you, telling you about my jealousy and how I had to tame it. But you have something in your brain that you need to tame too. Use my invisible rule because it will help tame your brain. You've got to tame your brain because your brain is programmed, and it could be money, it could be men, it could be, how much you weigh or eating. I mean, we all have something, every one of us. And There's not one of us that doesn't have something that plagues us in a way. So I'm just like, I'm making peace with, okay, this is, I spent my whole life watching my father do what he did. He explained how men were and blah, 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 blah. And so therefore I'm like, I'm going to outsmart him. I'm going to, you know what I mean? So thank you all for, I hope, I hope this helps you. Do the invisible rule. I didn't put it over here. Do the invisible rule. Find out what is your thing. What is the lion that you need to tame in your brain? We all have a lion in our brain. And I didn't even know that that was in my brain until I fell in love, because I don't think I've ever been in love like I've been in love with Greg, which is crazy. Isn't that crazy? Because I thought he was a square, thought he was the nerd. And here we are. So anyway, it's 8:00. Anita, thank you so much for being our wonderful, wonderful moderator. Thanks for being here, Tara and Lisa. I love you all. I love you guys. Yeah. Yeah, he did. He did. And so anyway, I'll be here tomorrow. I'm at home this week. And it's nice to be home. It's nice to have a little break. So anyway, I love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. It's not letting it go. Okay, thank you all for being here. Take care. Let's see. See you, Donna. Yeah, I know. I know. Try my x-ray. I think it'll help you. Thank you all for being here. Bye-bye, Marie. Take care.